The most important MS-13 base has fallen. The PNC has dealt a crucial blow to organized crime with the seizure of the MS-13 base, where they found tons of drugs, millions of dollars, and files that completely changed the perception that had been held about the gangs until then. But what did those files say? Today, you will learn the truth. The early morning of June 17th was not just another morning in El Salvador. At 2:43 a.m., in a wooded area north of Ilopango, a convoy of more than 60 PNC armored vehicles, Army tactical units, and night vision helicopters moved in absolute silence. What was about to happen would undoubtedly be the hardest blow in the history of the Maravitruca, the seizure of its central base of operations. But what no one imagined was what they would find inside. The order came directly from the highest level. Undercover agents had been infiltrated for more than 8 months, monitoring movements, transactions, transportation routes, and behavioral patterns of the MS-13 leadership. Thanks to them, the PNC not only knew the exact location of the base, but also the times the trucks entered, the aliases of the managers, and the number of steps the security chief took each night between 3 and 3:30 a.m. This time there would be no margin for error. The operation was dubbed a silent lance, and its execution was so surgical that by 3:05 a.m., the perimeter was already secured. Without firing a single shot, the elite commandos neutralized the external guards, disabled the surveillance systems, and opened the doors with targeted charges that did not damage the key infrastructure. The first thing they encountered was silence, but not a normal silence. It was the kind of dense silence that warns you that something is wrong. Inside the complex, an old abandoned factory remodeled inside with passageways, tunnels, and metal structures, there was a true narco-paramilitary logistics center. Giant shelves with blocks of cocaine marked with MS symbols, large refrigerated warehouses, vaults with biometric locks. Everything was set up for massive trafficking, not only of drugs, but also of weapons, documents, and people. The discovery was so overwhelming that the agents had to split into 3 teams. One to secure the illegal substances, another for the weapons and devices, and a third who, unbeknownst to them, was yet to discover the most gruesome part of the entire operation. In an isolated room at the back of the main warehouse, there was an unmarked metal door. The thermal sensors didn't detect any movement behind it, but upon forcing it, what they found was a scene that froze the blood of even the most seasoned veteran. A makeshift operating room with stretchers, oxygen tanks, disconnected monitors, and cold seal bags labeled with labels such as kidney X1, cornea, and bone marrow 9C. These weren't just remains. They were evidence of widespread organ trafficking. The discovery immediately activated the Red Protocol for crimes against humanity. Forensic experts, army doctors, and human trafficking specialists were summoned to the scene. But the most disturbing thing was what they found on the hard drives of the computers at the facility. Encrypted, files with extraction reports, waiting lists, and payments received from buyers in Guatemala, Honduras, and, to a lesser extent, Mexico. But the worst was yet to be revealed. Among the digital files, computer experts recovered a hidden folder labeled Exchange South. Inside were emails and documents detailing a network of cooperation between leaders of the MS-13 and Barrio 18, 2 historically rival groups that, for economic reasons, had made a secret truce to traffic organs and children captured in rural areas and marginalized communities. The files included route maps, shared payments, medical contacts, and photographs of victims. The entire country trembled. When the news began to leak to elected media outlets, the Ministry of Security held an urgent conference. The population couldn't know everything, but it was impossible to hide the magnitude of what was at stake. The government had struck a decisive blow, yes, but it had also uncovered a network larger, crueler, and deeper than anyone imagined. The director of the PNC was clear. What was found in this operation completely changes our understanding of the gang's operational capacity. We're not just talking about drug trafficking or extortion. We're talking about international crimes, alliances between enemy gangs, and human organ trafficking. This goes beyond crime. It's a diabolical operation. Subscribe if you like the video. From that moment on, what was a seizure operation became an international investigation. Interpol was notified. The DEA and UN medical agencies offered they provided support. Doctors Without Borders sent specialists to analyze the remains. Every inch of the site was sealed, recorded, filmed, and processed with extreme care. But while the official part of the operation was underway, what the agents experienced inside surpassed all protocol. One of the cold storage rooms had a trapdoor hidden under the shelves. Upon opening it, they found a rusty ladder descending about 15 meters underground. Upon reaching the bottom, the scene was indescribable. A chamber with padded walls, chains on the walls, traces of dry blood, and handwritten notes in a strange language. It was a holding room, a kind of cell used to extract information or prepare the victims for their trial. The analysts confirmed this. There the people were conditioned before being operated on. They weren't numbers, they were people with names, ages, blood types, medical conditions. In some cases, a set price. There was a handwritten fee schedule. Kidneys $30,000, cones $8,000 each, bone marrow based on compatibility, lungs on demand. The discovery was too much for even the most experienced agents. Some vomited, others simply went for air. Because when you face industrialized horror, when you understand that criminals not only kill, but also manage bodies as commodities, something breaks in a mind. And this is where the story takes another turn. One of the external teams, while combing the area near the base, found a pile of burned, half-destroyed documents in an abandoned house 500 meters away. Upon analyzing them, they confirmed that the MS-13 was in talks with intermediaries from a clandestine medical network in Colombia, linked to low-profile private clinics. The goal was to professionalize the extraction process to minimize collateral damage and increase the lifespan of the extracted organs. And now what would the PNC do? Would they reveal the truth about what they had found? The information extracted from the seized servers, combined with the physical documents found at the scene, outlined something much deeper than a simple drug deal. It revealed a corporate network of structured crime, as meticulous as a multinational, but built on blood, fear, and death. Among the partially burned papers, the experts discovered forged invoices, medical recommendation letters, altered death certificates, and, most alarmingly, records of bank deposits in offshore accounts in Belize, Panama, and the Cayman Islands, all with cross-dates, known aliases, and signatures linking intermediaries from both sides, MS-13 and Barrio 18. This discovery was key. For decades, both gangs had fought over territories with brutal ferocity, but the money trail was stronger than any street-level loyalty. What had once been wars was now business, and this organ trafficking was the most profitable of all, much more than drugs, weapons, or extortion. One of the investigators summed it up like this: when they realized they could make $200,000 with just two compatible victims, they stopped killing each other. War became a society. As the inspection of the base progressed, more hidden areas appeared. On the second level of the complex, behind a false steel wall, agents found a secret vault with bills neatly wrapped in industrial plastic. The preliminary figure was more than $27 million in cash, and along with the money, boxes of weapons for the exclusive use of the U.S. Army, M4 rifles, grenade launchers, thermal imagers, and even Israeli fragmentation grenades, all carefully labeled, numbered, and with shipping records from a port of Buenaventura, Colombia. Arms trafficking experts confirmed that these weapons were not the product of theft or the traditional black market. They were part of direct trafficking from arms brokers disguised as military donations. The magnitude of the discovery generated a silent diplomatic crisis. Foreign ministries from at least 3 countries were informed privately. The message was clear: The Salvadoran state was dismantling something that went beyond its borders and could not do it alone. Meanwhile, the site was declared a classified investigation zone. The army built a 3-kilometer security perimeter around it. Surveillance drones flew over it day and night. Every bag, every computer, every charred piece of paper was carefully lifted by the forensic teams. But the most disturbing thing was yet to be revealed. In a safe built into a wall hidden behind a painting, the agents found handwritten notebooks with records of victims, names, ages, medical conditions, and nationalities. Some were Salvadoran, others Honduran, Nicaraguan, even children. Missing in Mexico, including the name of an 11-year-old girl reported missing. She was reported missing in Chiapas a year ago. Genetic matches confirmed that one of the organs found in refrigeration belonged to her. That information blew the case apart. The Mexican government requested immediate access to the information. International alerts were activated. Interpol issued an emergency statement. The discovery not only revealed an organ trafficking network, it also demonstrated that victims of human trafficking, many of them minors, were being used as medical supplies. The next day, on national television, the Salvadoran president appeared visibly shaken, his face stern, his voice trembling. We have confronted organized crime vigorously, but what was found here is inhumane. This is not just a fight for security, it is a fight for our dignity as a country, and we will not stop. The words resonated with fury, and while political leaders were reacting, the prosecutor's legal team was already working to open a joint indictment against more than 120 people, including doctors, businessmen, corrupt police officers, and arms traffickers. Some of them had already fled. Others were immediately arrested in a series of simultaneous raids in San Miguel, Santa Ana, and La Libertad. In one of them, a former municipal official was captured with bank records of direct transfers from MS-13 accounts. The entire mafia apparatus was beginning to collapse, but not everyone reacted with fear. Threatening messages began to circulate from sectors loyal to the gangs. There was talk of revenge, of making the state pay. The PNC responded forcefully. Prisons were reinforced, 2,000 more troops were deployed to hotspots, and entry and exit routes across the border were closed. No one was entering, no one was leaving. Analysts were clear. The state had struck at the heart of the gangs, and now came the retaliation. But instead of backing down, the government launched a second phase, freezing accounts linked to family members, seizing suspicious real estate, and confiscating luxury vehicles registered in the names of frontmen for both sides. In just 72 hours, the MS-13 and Barrio 18 had lost more than 70 properties, $500 million in assets, and operational control of 3 key regions. And meanwhile, society reacted. Thousands of citizens marched in San Salvador with banners that read, "No more silence. We are not organs. We are people, and justice for the invisible children." Social media exploded. International networks such as the BBC, CNN, and Al Jazeera reported extensively on the operation. The entire world was watching El Salvador. And it all began with a silent entry at 2:43 a.m. The officers who participated in the raid were recognized for their bravery. Some of them, it later emerged, had been nearly executed by gangs in previous operations, but returned, and this time they won. At the end of the official report, a figure summed up the magnitude of the operation. More than 3.2 tons of drugs, $27 million in cash, 200 weapons of war for clandestine surgical laboratories, and direct evidence of organ trafficking with transnational links were seized. What was once a suspicion is now a certainty. The MS-13 and Barrio 18 not only shared territory, they shared a human market. And the worst part is that barely any information has been revealed. The investigations continue, the arrests are ongoing, and the names that appear in the seized documents promise to shake the political, medical, and financial structures of the entire region. Subscribe if you like the article.